This is Brindlewood Bay, Last Resort, Part 11, the beginning of the Void Mystery, which I believe is going to take about 2 sessions. So I want to sort of step back and just talk about the Void Mystery kind of conceptually, because this is the only one on my channel so far. Oh, it's not true, there's another one, but this is not on my channel very much. And so for people watching this, I want them to have a sense of like what this is. So the Murder Mavens have been building up to this moment, this confrontation with the midwives of the Fragrant Void. They have been uncovering these void clues, which are a timer, essentially. And once a certain number of them have been collected, then as the keeper, I create the void mystery and we begin. Now, the goal is, of course, to have all of our normal goals, but I will say that I consider the void mystery to be a sort of reward at the end of the campaign. I consider it to be like, it's our last chance to see certain side characters. It's our last chance to see these mavens, probably. It's a chance to do callbacks. It's a chance to really just kind of celebrate everything we've done and to put a capstone on the whole campaign, right? So it's your last time to use your crowns, so you might as well just go for it, and I encourage that. And so really think about it as just like the sort of send off to the campaign, and I think you'll be in the right headspace for it. It is very, very high supernatural and frankly bonkers. That is also the thing we've led up to, as indicated by the conclusion of the last session, right? You can see how it's ramping up pretty quickly towards the void mystery. And so with all that said, I think I mostly just want to check in on conditions right now. B has The Dead Will Rise and the Blood Red Crown. I promise you those are going to come up. So that's a thing. Dr. Thibault has The Queen of the Down Below, The Black Dog, and Marked by Mrs. Carfax. I also promise those will come up. And LMA has Obsessed with the Void, Stars Below, and Memories of Hector. The first two are definitely going to come up. Memories of Hector is interesting. I'm curious if that comes up because we have this people returning from the dead kind of thing. I don't know. What was the context of that, Brian? Do you recall?
Oh, why I got the condition. I don't know if I do recall why I got the condition. I need to dig for a second.
Yeah, viewers, it's been a few weeks.
Hector's my character's husband, if you don't recall that, or deceased husband.
I remember that. Yeah. Well,
died horribly when his own sculpture fell on him. But how I got the condition, I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't remember either. It might have been a crown of the queen or something, that I just decided to give you that. In any case, I think we'll be okay regardless. So that's sort of where things stand. And to kick off this mystery, I will tell you that it has been about a week since the events of the last session. And things have gotten pretty wild. Brindlewood Bay is currently locked down by the United States government. The reason for this is because of the quote, storm. A storm is the only way that the news and people in general have of comprehending what's going on in Brindlewood Bay right now. But if they would merely open their eyes, or if they would know what the three of you know, they would know that it is not a dark, black, roiling storm cloud hanging above Brindlewood Bay, nearly blocking out the sun. It is, in fact, a black, void-like ocean suspended in the air over Brindlewood Bay. And that it is not some sort of strange hurricane-like storm forming in the center of it. It is, in fact, a giant red eyeball staring down at Brindlewood Bay. The US government moved in. They have the town on lockdown. You are not allowed to leave your homes. You can obviously sneak out, but you're not officially allowed to leave your homes except during certain periods. And even that is getting more and more restricted. Food and supplies are being delivered as needed. The media is mostly been kept out, though there are some reporters who've managed to embed themselves into the situation. All the roads are blocked off. And that is where we find ourselves at the start of the Void Mystery. Ever since the appearance of the Red Eye and the dark ocean hanging above Brindlewood Bay, dead things have started to come back to life. It was small at first. As I paint the scene, each of you describe a small thing that shows how the dead are coming back to life.
A local resident sitting down for a meal of a boiled lobster, and the lobster, bright red, should be deceased, just goes right off that plate and floop, back into the ocean.
I love it. It's very Beetlejuice. So into that. Yeah.
Along those same lines, at Etienne's booth on the boardwalk, all the fish start flapping again in their ice stacks.
The last few days, every time you, as a resident of Brindlewood Bay, roll up a magazine to swat a fly, it will not squish. It's constantly, all the flies are everywhere.
Let's go deeper with the question. The three of you are elderly women. By definition, you are becoming more and more intimately familiar with the idea of your bodies giving up the ghost. Some of you might even have the pallid mask marked and be downright obsessed with it. I am curious, though, how does the appearance of the red eye have an effect on, or maybe even reverse, your sense of your own mortality?
B has been preoccupied with death for weeks. It is practically the only thing that she can talk about or think about, as she doesn't eat her breakfast and barely eats her lunch. And every time she looks outside to see the red eye in the sky, it feels hopeful in a way that she is very suspicious of.
For me, I've been a nurse and seen enough people pass away, and there's always that question of where do they really go? And wrestling with that myself recently, I witnessed the kind of inverted stars below, where the night sky was not what it has been, and this massive red eye seems like at the least there are going to be some concrete answers finally available.
Callie's husband, Sylvain, had disappeared on the water and is presumed dead. And I think she is just always waiting at the window, waiting to see if he comes out, and if he does, what condition he's in.
And so the opening credits of Brindlewood Bay are going to roll. The music is in a minor key. It's the same tune as usual, but it is gloomier. Everyone please do a cozy vignette that shows the gloominess and perhaps how you are trying to maintain some sense of normalcy in the middle of a martial law compound beset by a giant black void ocean hanging over it.
Pulling a fresh piece of beautiful pottery out of the kiln, planning to kind of maintain the routine, put it out on display for sale. And in that darkened atmosphere outside the window, and a military armored vehicle roars by and kind of startles me enough that I just drop it and whoosh.
I think we see Callie standing on the stoop in her backyard, and Anku is outside, and she is just watching the sky and looking at the sea, or the other sea, and then calling Anku in. And we see on the table she is working on a new scrapbook, and it's full of images of that red eye.
Typically during the opening credits, we see Bee at her writing desk, maintaining meticulous correspondence and thank you notes for all the charities that she has dealt with over the years. And in trying, just out of old habit, sits down and composes thank you notes to the delivery drivers, writing, dropping off groceries. And every now and again, her hand seems to, by a mind of its own, start scrawling in a symbols and language that she doesn't speak. She has to crumple it up, start again.
It's nighttime. The three of you have managed to get permission to spend an evening together. And so you were chaperoned by a military person, a soldier, to the home of, we'll say Bee's home. What are you all doing tonight, Bee?
Bee emptied out her cabinets and has a stack of jigsaw puzzles that we might peruse.
Callie, do murder mystery books land the same way now as they did a week ago?
I think they're refreshingly simple.
LMA, you are perhaps looking out the window at a certain point, and you see June Willoughby coming up the walk up to the front door. She stops, though, just in the front garden. She is still wearing her beautiful, pristine poodle dress from Halloween night, and her hair is done up. She actually looks younger, very radiant, like she just stepped out of a sort of beach blanket bingo movie or something, right? Or some kind of sock hop 1960s film. And she sees you in the window and she waves. What do you do?
I'll pull up the glass and say, June, you are the spitting image of Annette Funicello. How do you do it?
She says, hi, LMA. Can I come in?
This is Bee's house we're in, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll say, Bee, you've got a guest.
Worth noting, there are no soldiers around. She's just walking right up your garden path. Stands out, right? She's not looking inconspicuous at all. Bee, what do you do?
We're being chaperoned. Is there a soldier in here with us on the puzzles, or is it just
no?
from door to door?
They just brought they just brought Callie and LMA and then they left. So yeah.
I see. Element May, I'm not really comfortable having people in my home. Tish was such a terrible fright.
Your record player comes on and it's playing like Chuck Berry. Very up tempo. Rock and roll.
I think Callie will just go right over and lift the needle up and just
Stops.
Well, LMA, are you going to talk to June at the window, or do you really want to invite her in? We don't know where Violet is. All of this has been, and apparently my record player is possessed. We could die.
You hear some commotion upstairs. Gordon Thune, you cad, get your hands off me. Bum, 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 bum.
Callie will
You're muted, Ollie.
have her hand on Anku's collar and just be looking upstairs and say, "You're not. There isn't. Is there?"
June says to you again, LMA, I think you better let me in, dear.
I'm gonna whisper back to B and Callie. Well, June's helped us in the past now, hasn't she? I feel like she's on our side.
Does she look vital?
Yes and no. She looks young and healthy and hale and the prime of the flower of her youth, but she also looks, her skin has a translucence to it.
Say, June, have you checked in with the military folks? They've got a quarantine thing they're doing. Might be best if you keep your distance.
She says, LMA, I know what you have to do to stop all of this.
Should we let her in?
He goes over to her front door and opens it and says to June, I would appreciate you not inhabiting anything more than just you. I don't want you inhabiting my house. Do you understand?
She comes in, and as she crosses the threshold of your door, it's like everything is draped with that Barbara Walters filter, that soft, like gauzy filter just settles over everything. Or like season 1 of Drag Race, right? And she says, I think we should sit down. And
Yes.
she goes and sits down in your sitting room. She says, I know what the midwives of the Fragrant Void, I know what their plans are. I know what they intend to do. But first, I have to tell you a little bit of history. One of my ancestors was the first mate of the Deep Reaver. His name was Hale Willoughby. When the Deep Reaver hunted the quote-unquote whale that was so essential to the founding of our community, a great number of sailors lost their lives. Indeed, Hale Willoughby was thought to have died as well. But he turned up some days later, healthy and alive. He supposedly plunged into the depths of the ocean and managed to hold his breath long enough to surface, and then had the strength to swim to land. Now, you should know that the midwives of the fragrant void are trying to bring forth an entity called the Eye of Charon. That's that giant red eye in the sky. Believe it or not, it hasn't fully manifested. The Eye of Charon is always looking for the ones that get away. And I am the spitting image of Hale Willoughby. I learned months ago that the midwives intended to use me as a lure to bring the Eye of Charon forth, to trick it into thinking that I am Hale Willoughby, or that perhaps just I was good enough to make right what went wrong back in those days. Why do they want to bring the Eye of Charon forth? Well, and she looks over, and I think you have a plant bee that has not gotten good care lately, and its browned leaves begin to become flush with green as it comes back to life. They intend to raise the dead. The very presence of the Eye of Charon, the dead are drawn to it. They're drawn up from the land. When I discovered what they intended to do, I took drastic action so that they could not use me as their lure. And here she will go for your hand, Callie, and you realize that your hand passes right through hers. I thought that was the end of it. But they have found my granddaughter, April, who looks just like me and therefore Hale Willoughby. April, of course, was nowhere near Brindlewood Bay, which is why I didn't think it was anything to be concerned about. But they've found her, they've taken her, and they are using her in their ritual to draw forth the Eye of Charon. If you're going to put a stop to this, you have to determine where and when the final steps of their ritual will take place. And in case you need to react or reverse it, you must also discover how the ritual is to take place. Any questions, ladies?
June, why on earth did you not go to the authorities? There are military personnel up and down our every street.
B, I don't know if, well, surely this is something you can appreciate. Sometimes people are not willing to face the truth of things they can't explain. The story is, frankly, on the face of it, an insane one. Even now, no one can face what is really happening here. They call it a storm in the sky, a once-in-a-lifetime meteorological event. No, like me, you've touched the void. You know what the stakes are. You really understand what's going on here. And all of it is connected. the murders, the farm, the history of this town. Everyone has some connection to the Deep Reaver. The midwives have a connection to the Deep Reaver. And in fact, that's where I would start looking. The Deep Reaver Museum. Now, I have to go back to the cave. The power of the Eye of Charon allows me to move about a bit, but I am inexorably drawn to it. Drawn back to the cave, that is. I don't think you have much time.
Before you go, June, is there anything we can do for you?
Just make sure April is okay at the end of this, please. I was trying to spare her. Make sure she gets back to her mother, May. And then she leaves.
Well, it's not every day a dead woman comes to visit.
Seems to be a weekly occurrence for me as of late.
I always knew that Mrs. Carfax had it in for her, but do you think her sister Jane Leaf is in on this too?
Let's talk about leads, actually, because I do have some for you. The Deep Reaver Museum is a great one. Jane Leaf does have a home in Brindlewood Bay now, and Jane Leaf is a key figure in the midwives. I think you've probably tapped out the Snowdrop House already well enough. I wouldn't worry about that too much more. But Etienne's home and workplace might be something Ella May can particularly look into. So, given their romance, because Etienne is definitely in on all this. Those are just a few leads. You also have some characters you might be able to lean on as well. Otho Fane is a phone call away. That's probably not a bad one to start with. Yeah, so lots of possibilities, but the Deep Reaver is probably central to it. It's a museum. It's actually not the, it's controversially, it may or may not be the actual Deep Reaver. It is at least a very, very good replica of the original ship, or maybe it's a restored version of the ship. It's a regular controversy in the town. They always, basically its main function is just like they do conventions and conferences and galas around it now. So, but yeah. But the first order of business is just traveling outside of your home, unseen. So let's have that scene where you're figuring out what to do.
Oh, if only Violet were around with those disguise kits she's so skilled at. She could disguise us as some soldiers.
Bee is scritching behind the ears of her beloved cat baby and thinking to herself that maybe there's a distraction in order.
Well, I'd say we should wait for dark, but dark came to us.
Yeah, it's basically always like every day now it's just like, it's kind of like it's essentially like Twilight all the time now, right? Except it has a blackened red hue to it.
With Callie's history, would she possibly know who runs the museum?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sounds good. I haven't thought of the name of that character, but we can do that. We'll say that is Miles Prentice.
I can try calling Miles at the museum and see if he knows of a way we can perhaps get past the guards or maybe even get leave to go. official business.
Yeah, maybe like you're part of some restoration project or something, right?
To that end, would the Fox Mulder move come into play in perhaps calling out some details of how to move about the city, or just what
Sure.
has been going on with the eyeball and things like that too? I don't know if that's useful in the
Well, yeah, so
transversing the city so much.
there are no void clues anymore, but you might be able to. It's a good fictional justification for just like calling someone who can help you out, right? Because they're clearly
Yes.
a connected person, right? Did we ever define who that was? I don't know if we did. Did we ever say like who it is?
Well, they were always disguised as a caterer.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good. That seems like a good angle as well. Elabay, do you have any thoughts?
Well, if your contact has been disguised as a caterer, the military likes to eat. So, some kind of arranging chow for the soldiers. Thank you for protecting our town. We'll be having a banquet buffet thing tomorrow, but we just need to get to the museum to set it up now, is perhaps our cover story.
And I'll add here that the complexity of the mystery is only 6. So, but it has a more like probably more of like an action-packed conclusion or resolution than normal mysteries do. The mystery part is just a 6. So.
In my head canon, my quote unquote catering contact was just using that as a way to come in contact with us. That they were actually kind of that Fox Mulder working outside, but within.
Yeah, it's like
sort
a deep throat type character. Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be calling them and imploring them to use whatever resources they had to maybe even send a car so we could do some research.
Yeah, I like it. That's pretty good. Okay. Why don't we start there? I think it's always night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you are not able to convince them to do this?
That we might die trying to walk there on our own. That some soldier might mistake us as something, everybody's on edge. That we might.
I think it's worse than that. I think that maybe your phone call tips off the army, and they they're going to lock you down pretty bad. So let's have the roll with, I think it's probably composure.
That is a 10.
Very nice. Let's take a 5-minute break right now because I need to go get some water, but we'll come back and we'll do that. A few hours after making contact with your contact bee, it's unclear what time of day it is anymore. Watches and things act funny, and they have all week. And it's always just the same sort of dismal, blackish red outside. But a few hours later, you see a giant green military truck pull up. You hear it first, the mnemonics, coming to a stop. Big truck. The soldier gets out and rings your doorbell.
Yes.
He says, "Are you Beatrice Baum?"
I am indeed, young man.
Right. Well, so we are here with your supplies. We gather you're supposed to be making meals to bring around to residents, and so we. Where do you want us to put all this stuff?
Why don't you come through? There's enough room in the kitchen. How much stuff?
He's like, "All right, boys, you ready? Let's get this stuff unloaded." And it's like that scene in I Love Lucy, that one I Love Lucy episode where they bring in a side of beef, and it's like it's like a bunch of like stuff, right? They bring in crates full of onions and potatoes and carrots and cuts of meat, and there are fish options, and there's all kinds of stuff, and there's piling it up everywhere. It's all in your kitchen. It's starting to spill out into the main room. There's soldier after soldier coming in and coming out, all this stuff to make food with. And the soldier says, "Is this your whole team?" Looking at the three of you. And Anku. And the cat.
I'm sure we could rustle up a little more help. I guess I was not expecting all of this so quickly.
Well, just let us know when you're ready to deliver the first batch of meals. We'll take you around as needed. And one of the guys says, one of the soldiers offers up. He's like, "I'm a very good potato peeler if you need help, ma'am."
Oh, aren't you sweet? I'll be sure to save you a little something.
They will go and wait outside. They do have a truck there for you to take you around to deliver meals. You better get cooking.
Do you have any like sleeping pills we can put into this food?
Perhaps doping the military isn't the best angle here, LMA.
If they're asleep, we can get our work done. We, this is the thing Amanda Delacourt would do.
LMA, I called my contact, and this is a really good way for us to go around and visit multiple places in Brindlewood Bay without any of our neighbors being suspicious or the military knowing what we're up to. She starts sorting through onions.
Yeah, who's chopping the onions?
I make casserole dishes. I do not make the casseroles that go in them.
Callie will start with the onions, and she's already just, I got it.
So what's on the menu?
I mean, we can't make 20 different frittatas. So, oh, my cousin out she's from Minnesota. They make this thing called hot dish. And you just put everything in and then you bake it. And it doesn't really matter what you put in it because it's always hot dish. Doesn't matter.
I imagine it's unified by quite a lot of dairy, if I had to guess.
It truly is universal. Cream of anything soup.
Okay, well,
Hot dish it is.
hot dish it is. So let's just have the scene with you all. This could be
Cooking
cozy
montage.
move. This could be cozy move if we want. Get a condition or two cleared. Get a condition cleared. Let you all be together for the cozy move. It's fine. Let's just have the scene a bit. Think about what condition you want to clear and then work towards that. I don't know if anybody has cooking as their cozy activity, but I don't think it matters at this point. So
It was violets.
there you go. So yeah.
Callie will say, "I'll need the recipe we come up with for the scrapbook, provided we're around to make the scrapbook."
He is working on a side of beef, trying to separate each rib with a giant knife that just doesn't seem to want to give. And it's quite messy.
I'll just sort of absentmindedly reach into my medical bag and hand a scalpel over and go back to cutting up carrots.
Oh, and tiny cuts. I wish Violet was here. I wish Violet was here. She would be able to tell us what to do this night. I think we're going to make a hash of it, ladies.
I'm sure they've eaten worse. those little packages.
Well, this is for the people of Brindlewood Bay. Like, yeah, I mean,
Oh.
I'm sure the soldiers will also eat it, but yeah.
Well, then I know they've eaten worse. I've been to those potlucks.
He is wiping bloody hands on a rag and continuing and then moving along to sear off meats and things.
I suppose we should be thankful none of this is trying to crawl away.
What's Anku doing in the middle of all this?
Or just hovering, waiting for something to hit the ground.
I like to think it's one of those kitchens that has cabinets and like that space, and baby is equally pacing up and top.
I love it. I love it. Well, eventually you will make, after quite a while, you will make enough meals to justify going out and delivering them, right? They provided you with all of the like foil, containers that you'll need and all that kind of stuff, and plastic cutlery and all that business. And the soldiers will load up the meals into the truck. And the soldier that's with you, the one who's going to be driving you around, his name is Private, let's call him Private Arnold. A young kid from somewhere down south by his accent. And he's like, all right, ladies, are you ready to get these meals delivered?
Yeah, B, bring along a stack of your those thank you notes you use after your social events. I got a feeling we might need them. The good
Of
ones.
course. Well, I mean, I always have a few in my handbag. How many did you need?
Well, let's see. How many people in Brindlewood Bay? No. Out of character, what I'm picturing is we might use them to like slide notes to people. Meet
Just
us.
bring a good stack.
I don't think it'll be controversial for you to have paper with you if you want to have some paper and a pen. So Private Arnold like will, help you all into the truck because it's a big military truck. And he gets in, he's like, oh, tell you what, this situation is crazy, huh?
Oh, this is just a regular Saturday in Brindlewood Bay.
Well, it's all pretty weird to me. I think it's the end of the world myself. Probably the second coming or something like that,
I have read the Bible, and I don't recall a giant red eyeball.
Well, I thought that all the people who were good would be, teleported away to heaven while all the sinners are left over. Well, and considering I'm still here, I think it's probably, I can't rule it out. And he says, what about you ladies? You do a lot of sinning?
Well, back in the day, but
He's like, I'm just messing with you. All right, let's get going. And the truck trundles off. Now he has like a route. He has a route, but you might have to convince him to like go somewhere where you need him to go that is not on the route. So how does that go?
I want to chat him up for a second here. Young man, what's the outside of this storm look like when you drove in? What are you seeing on the edge of it?
Well, I think that's probably classified information, ma'am, but it looked just like normal sky to me. I mean, there's a pretty clear, pretty much right when you cross into the county line is when you start seeing it.
Oh, you know who we forgot? Miles. Ladies, he must be stuck in that museum all by himself. I mean, ever since his wife passed away, I don't know if there's anyone. We should really drop some food off for him.
But the restaurant's closed. He's going to be hungry.
Well, where's this fella at?
It's the Reaver Museum. It's not too far up the road this way.
Well, ma'am, I'm supposed to stick to a real particular route here. My orders are to take you to these particular addresses in this street, and I don't think up that way is going to be allowed.
But he's hungry, and I mean, it's such a dear friend. I can't, in good, I mean, as a Christian, we're just trying to do charitable works.
Do the night move with presence. What are you hoping, or what are you afraid will happen if you fail?
That he will get suspicious, discover it's a ruse, and we will not be let out of the house again.
I think it's probably worse than that. I think probably someone else will become suspicious, which is probably a sight more dangerous than poor dopey Private Arnold getting suspicious. But in any case, go ahead and roll with presence.
Presence is a +3, and I rolled a 5 and a 6.
All right, there you go.
He's a good Christian boy, and he's going to do what he's told.
You'll succeed, and you get a bonus for the 12 plus. And the bonus is Ella May. You will see that Etienne is driving around also in his truck. He must have special permission to also drive around for some reason.
There's always something fishy with him.
Private Arnold says, just be quick about it, ladies, okay? And he like pulls up and he pops open the truck for you, and so you can grab a meal and take to this, or a couple meals to take to this Miles guy. He's like, I'm gonna have a smoke while you do that. And he's having a smoke. And Ella May, you'll see Etienne's truck not too far away, parked a couple blocks away. So, Callie, what do you do?
She's going to, I think she'll look at LMA and say, are you going to see Mr. Beauregard?
It's probably worth checking in and seeing what he's up to. I fancied him for a little bit, but I feel like he's just always up to no good somehow.
Well,
so, yeah.
Don't go on your own, but I'm going to go to the museum, see if Miles is in.
You say don't go on my own?
Don't go on your own.
I'll be fine, I'll dot her off on my own.
B, what do you do?
He was at the door with the meals, making a big farce of it for the
for the soldiers' benefit.
Mhm.
I think given this lockdown, Miles probably is the only person who's there right now. The museum is interesting because it's basically there's like a building that is kind of set like in front of the pier, essentially, that goes to the ship that's in dock, right? And right now, obviously, there are no tourists or anything, but you do see Miles approaching from behind big glass doors of the museum. And he says, oh, Dr. Thibault, Mrs. Baum, what you got there? Miles is I think he's a very, very like classic kind of bookworm kind of guy. He's wearing sweater vest and bow tie. He's about your age. Great big giant like tortoiseshell rimmed glasses. He's like, something smells.
It's the onions.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And he's taking the food.
Oh, of course. And I think Callie will kind of do that thing where she'll hold on to it as she's offering it and just start pushing in.
He doesn't resist. You can go in. He's like, this is all so crazy. Like, what is going on?
Well, I have some theories. Perhaps we can discuss.
Oh, I knew you would. If anybody would, I knew you would.
B, why don't you keep an eye on the front door while I speak with Miles?
Absolutely. But you'll want to put these in the freezer.
He's like,
Of
yeah,
course.
yes. He takes the stack of meals, and we'll cut over to LMA. LMA going off to the truck is not a big deal. Private Arnold won't notice you, especially because of the dramatic way B was banging on the door of the museum to keep his attention. So what do you do?
I'm gonna try and sneak up first to make try to get a view of Etienne without Etienne knowing that I'm seeing him.
I'm with the night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
Ooh. The inverse. Etienne sees me snooping and I don't see him.
And it's worse than that. He will send one of the midwives, dark servitors, against you.
That's worse.
But please roll with composure.
13.
Nice, very good. I will just go ahead and give you a clue. Describe the sneaking process, though. The truck is parked at a house, just a house, a residential home.
Okay. Do that kind of, how houses that are kind of built into a hill, there's the sidewalk and then that little stone lip, and then the yard commences. Kind of creeping along down low, making sure that I'm not seen from the house, and then a quick scuttle hustle to get across the sidewalk where the stairs go up to get into a position where I can see his van and hopefully see him come out of this house.
He comes out of the house and he has tucked under his arm what appears to be, let me take a look at my notes. He has tucked up under his arm what appears to be a map, a bunch of maps, all bundled up. One of them slips out of his stack from under his arm and lands near you. The map is a clue. You can give it the context you need to give it during Theorize, but he throws the maps in, slams the door shut, and goes around to get in the front seat. Let's cut over to B. B, what are you doing at the front of the museum while Callie and Miles are in the back?
I'm imagining this museum and the kind of like foyer. I'm imagining this museum is a repurposed house. Like
Okay.
it had been at a previous point like a house in Brindlewood Bay, and so this is more of a foyer space, and that there are a bunch of very old photos all dealing with the Reaver.
Maybe
and
even a couple of small exhibits in glass cases or something, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
I like
And
that.
so I'm just kind of poking around to see if I can find context for what's happening now.
Yeah, I love it. Do the meddling move with reason.
That's a 6.
You are poking around when you hear a commotion coming from the other side of the truck, the side that Private Arnold was smoking. There's a cry. Ah! And then something hurls Private Arnold's body over the truck, and it slams up against the glass of the door, leaving a smear of blood. Unless you put on a crown.
I would very much like to do that.
Very good. Mark your crown. We'll come back to your clue in a minute. Dr. Thibault. Miles gets you back into the office and says, Callie, I don't have to tell you that this town has a dark history. It is connected to some really terrible things that have happened in the past. It has been the locus point, the nexus point, if you will, the nexus point of a series of dreadful ley lines all come together. Whatever this is, I know it's connected to something that's going to change everything.
Well, you aren't wrong.
Do you think the Deep Reaver has something to do with it?
I have a very strong reason to believe so, yes. Less the ship itself and more what it found. The whale.
Huh. I think it all makes sense now.
What did you realize?
The hatch that goes into the ship's hold. It's been welded shut for decades.
Well,
I wonder if there's something down there that no one's meant to see. I've always wanted to go down there myself, but part of the founding of this museum, the charter, explicitly states we are not supposed to go down into the hold.
that seems oddly specific.
And I can't think of anything less important right now than honoring the founding charter of a museum, given the circumstances.
I believe we're on the same page.
How are we going to get down in there, though? The hatch is welded shut tight. I don't have an axe lying around to break through the wood, and even if I did, well, I don't think either of you are really up to the task, or either of us, rather.
Probably not, but there is a military vehicle just outside the door. Who knows what goodies are in the trunk?
Oh, yes. Well, are you thinking some sort of, do you think the truck has some sort of weapon or explosive or something? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, perhaps a hacksaw or something.
Oh, that makes more sense. Well, yes, I suppose, but how are we going to get a hold of it?
I may have an idea on that front. How good is your scream?
Let's cut back over to Ella May. Ella May, you're in the bushes. You have a map. It's an old map.
Yep.
This home, now that you think about it, is actually the home of a fellow who collects maps and other little historical tidbits in the region. That's something that many people in town do, to be fair, but locals especially, or townies do. What do you do now? Etienne's not aware of you.
Has Etienne like gotten in his truck and driven away, or is he still present?
He's still in the truck and he's probably like chatting on his cell phone.
Ooh, try and eavesdrop then.
Oh, very interesting. Do the information move with meddling with composure. Sorry, I got all that wrong. Do the meddling move with composure. Someday I'm going to just make all the terms of both these games the same, so I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Right. 7 this time.
Okay, good. You are going to get your clue. The clue is, yes, I know. Yes. Well, I have, we'll figure this out. We'll figure it out. It's not too late. We have plenty of time. Everything is going as planned. Yes, I know that, right? And he's kind of going on a bit. And he says, I don't think a boat has gone out to that island in ages, though, Jane. That's your clue. I don't even know if it's on any of these maps. And then he says, and then you do something that makes a noise that gets his attention. What do you do accidentally, LMA?
Ooh. Oh. So as much as I adore B, I do have a cat allergy, and it has finally caught up to me. I kind of accidentally, like, I'm like, oh my, and kind of put my hand up to my eye, and then achoo!
He says, hold on, Jane. And he sets the phone down. He's getting out of the truck.
I'll turn the achoo and ayoo at the end.
Ah, very good. Okay, good. He says, oh, LMA, how did you get out of your house?
Oh,
He kind of like takes you by the hands and pulls you in close. He says, it's so good to see you.
it's great to see you too, and I see you're out helping.
How come you haven't been returning my
hour of need?
calls?
Sorry?
How come you haven't been returning my calls?
Oh, but the phones aren't working.
He's like, oh, right. Yeah, the phones aren't working. Well, how have you been?
Is your phone working?
Oh, no. Just a useless hunk of plastic.
Should have bought a Nokia. You could at least drive a nail with that or do something useful.
Thank goodness B has a landline, right?
Mm-hmm.
He says, well, I guess it's kind of an unusual time to ask you out on a date, LMA, but I was getting ready to drive down to the fish market just to make sure everything's kind of buttoned up now that no one's been there for a few days. You care to go with me? I can fire up the espresso machine.
Yeah, everything's closed these days. There's no social life. It's just
here, hop in.
Come on. Wait. Oh, that's right. I'm doing what do you call that?
No, I insist.
Kindness, courtesy, delivery run, and I'll start walking back to the deep Reaver as fast as I can.
He opens the door and says, no, I insist, LMA. Get in. Let's go check out the fish market.
I'm gonna holler out, oh look, there's B and Callie and Anku, and start,
You're gonna have to do the night move with composure. What are you afraid is gonna happen if you fail at this?
I get kidnapped.
Well, it's worse than that. He's taking you to the fish market too.
All right.
To end you. Go ahead and roll with composure.
9.
And let's take a look at your conditions as well. No, I think you're fine on that.
Well, good thing I got rid of catch of the day.
Yeah. Let me take a look at the moves. And on 9, you do hold steady. There's a complication or cost. What'd you say?
Speaking of conditions, did we clear one from our cooking session?
Yeah, you can. You can have cleared one if you wish. Whatever you think makes sense.
And obsessed with avoid is permanent, so you'll have to clear memories of Hector.
I'm going to go ahead and you succeed. I'm going to go ahead and give you marked by Etienne as a condition. So, but just describe how you get away.
Ben, are you all right if Anku comes barking and running up?
Yeah.
Let's make that the condition. Maybe Anku's all slobbery, licking his fishy fingers. And that bothers Etienne enough that I get a few extra paces away before he can grab me.
B, you find an old photograph of the crew of the Deep Reaver. This was taken a number of years after the incident with the whale. But it's members of the crew, and other people as well, because it's men and women. This is both your clue and your complication. 4 of the women, the only 4 women in the picture, are dead ringers for the 4 of you. Their style of dress, of course, is different, and they seem a little like younger than you are. But you can pick out all 4 of you in the photo. How does that make you feel?
I'm definitely feeling a bit spooked.
Yeah, take the condition spooked. What do you
I'm also
do?
going to take that photo off the wall.
Yeah, you can.
Mhm.
That's your clue, though. I don't know if anybody's tracking the clues, but yeah, it looks like
And
you
then,
are.
as far as clearing conditions, I was trying to clear the bloody red crown with all of my butchery work and wiping the
Oh,
blood
I'll
from
take
my
it. Yeah,
hands.
it's good.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, very good. Callie, he's like, so what's your plan to get whatever they might have in this military truck, which we will use to commit a massive felony with?
Well, it's fairly simple. You'll feign distress, and when the soldier comes running, I'll sneak around the building and get to the car. Well, do you know what a heart attack feels like? Can you fake it?
He's like, well, I guess I'll have to give it a go. I don't have any choice, do I? We have to get inside that cargo hold.
We do. I'm sure you'll do great. Just, when I get back, you have a miraculous recovery. It was just gas.
He's like, okay. And you go out, step out the front. You can gather B up as well, who looks somewhat shell-shocked. And he's speaking very loudly for the benefit of the soldier. Thank you, ladies. I'm really looking forward to trying these delicious meals you made. I love onions. And then he goes, oh my word. Oh my word. I think something is happening in my body.
Oh no. Oh no. Private Arnold.
I feel a sharp tightening in my chest. Private Arnold comes running. Callie, this is a ridiculous plan, but let's see if it works. Composure, what are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
He'll turn around and catch me doing a felony.
Yeah, I think it's worse than that. All 4 of you, 5 of you, including Anku, are going to be arrested and brought to the brig, the makeshift brig. Please roll with composure. Let's take a look at your conditions. None of your conditions apply, so go ahead and roll with composure.
It's a 7.
Very good. Private Arnold says, well, golly, what's going on? And Miles is like, I think I'm having a cardiovascular event. And the private's like, well, here, and he's kind of doing the thing. Please describe how you go search the truck. What do you do, Callie, at that point?
She'll just do that, very quick walk to the back and look around and then lift the flap of the Humvee. And
they have one of those tactical shovels. It's like a shovel, but it's got like 10 different tools in it, It can be a weapon, it can be a crowbar, it has a flashlight in it, it's got all kinds of stuff. You've got the tactical shovel.
Yep, she will take that, and
you can add it to your cozy little place as well.
She'll shove that up the back of her blazer.
Very good. And when you're done, Miles is like, oh, that's I think I'm okay after all. I think it was just the onions. Dr. Thibault, maybe you could help me back to my office.
Oh yes, I'll be right there, Miles.
As you're walking away, he says a little too loudly, I think that went really well.
Yes, dear, it was very convincing.
The complication is just you have suspicious as a condition because Private Arnold's like, LMA and B, you can be back together with Private Arnold and Anku while Callie and Miles go off. So let's have that scene. What are you doing?
Callie or
I'm sorry,
who's having what scene?
B and LMA. Sorry.
Anku running off like that.
So B, Etienne seems to be up to no good. He's running around town picking up maps. He dropped this one.
That's really interesting, LMA.
And he was on the phone talking to Jane Leaf.
His phone was working?
Yes, I think he's got one of those satellite phones or something.
Curious. No, I can't think about your map because, and she pulls out of her giant handbag the picture.
Is that us? Is that Photoshop stuff they talk about?
What's a
Have we been
shop?
mean?
No, I found it in a museum. I think Callie was going to investigate further, but maybe we should distract Private Arnold, deliver a few more meals, and come back to her.
So we were sailors on the Deep Reaver?
I have no idea. I cannot tell. It's a very good photo shop, maybe.
I'm gonna look at the red eye in the sky and kind of position my body to block the photograph from the red eye so that the eye can't see the photo.
We should talk about that red eye. It's really big. It's probably the size of like it's the perspective is hard to tell, but like if we had to guess, you'd probably put it at the size of like a football field floating above Brindlewood Bay. And it's always they call it strange meteorological activity on the news, but it's always just like looking left, looking right, looking up, looking down. It's always moving wildly to see what it can see. And then this black ocean roiling around it, suspended in the air. Private Arnold says, well, I think she'll probably be okay. We need to get the rest of these meals dropped off. We'll come back and get her.
Sure, we don't have that many more left on the route.
Right. All right. Well, let's go. We'll make it quick. We'll swim back and grab Dr. Thibault at that time. Are you two ladies okay? I know I don't want. I'm worried. I've heard that heart attacks can be. It's like yawning. You know, it can be contagious among the elderly. That's my understanding, anyway.
Oh, there was a heart attack? I'm a nurse. I could help with that. Are you okay, Mr. Private?
Well, it wasn't actually a heart attack. I think it was just indigestion, it seems like. But, you know, when someone yawns, I still yawn, even if I'm not tired.
LMA, with your years of medical knowledge, do you think that's how heart attacks work?
Well, contagions do spread. Achoo!
He's like,
Oh, baby, there you are.
We better get getting. And he gets in the truck and he's ready to drive off. Dr. Thibault, you have the tactical shovel, which does have a crowbar, among other tools. And you have Miles, and he's taking you down the pier to the Deep Reaver. As paint the scene question, when you cross the gangplank to go into the and actually step onto the Deep Reaver, what about stepping onto the Deep Reaver lets you know that it is intimately connected to whatever's going on in the sky right now? Everybody can answer that.
Would you give the prompt one more time?
As you step onto the deep, as you step onto the Deep Reaver, or just like, how do we know that the Deep Reaver is connected to the events of what's happening in town?
Every time the gaze of the eye passes directly over the Deep Reaver, it looks restored, all the rotten wood shiny and fresh. Or aged wood.
Has the figurehead been described in the past for the Deep Reaver? I can't recall.
I don't think so.
All right. So the figurehead, whenever Callia steps onto the ship, the figurehead kind of reaches its arms out and gestures towards the eye, almost pleading.
As the wood has aged and slowly rotted, you get the impression that all of the knots in the wood were expanding with the water in order to form many, many eyes.
I love it. Let's take 5. Everyone in town has heard a story about what is in the hold of the Deep Reaver. Everyone has a tale. Everyone has a theory. Old timers claim to know what's really down there. Historians claim to know what's down there. You each have heard a story. These stories are always creepy in nature. It's the kind of things that kids use to scare each other. And they have in Brindlewood Bay going back decades. Before the end of the session, I would like for each of you to share the story that you've heard about what is in the Deep Reaver, what is down in the hold, what might Callie find when they crack it open. But for now, B, LMA, Private Arnold, you are, and Anku, I guess, as well. It sounds like maybe you're all.
He has both animals in.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, baby came too. Okay, good. And like, you're going back to the root, and he says, "Well, let's get back to it." And he's like got one of the meals that he's like eating off of as he drives, right? He's like, "So what do you call this again?"
Well, it's my cousin's recipe. It's called hot dish.
Hot dish. Okay, that's very, very descriptive name.
Like some of you young military types. Hot dish.
He's like, "Well, you know, I try to stay fit. It's part of the job description generally."
Have you all tried like with this big red eye in the sky? Have you tried flying a helicopter up there or shooting a rocket at it or something?
He's like, "Well, I'm pretty sure that's confidential and I can't say, but yes, they did, and they never came back." But you didn't hear that from me. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, here we go. And you're back on the route, which is
You
nowhere
don't
near where you want to be. Where do you want to be?
Well, Sarah, should we try to detour to Etienne's home while he's out running errands, or Jane Leaf's house?
I bet if LMA whispers over to B about Etienne some more, that would seem like a good idea. But we would have to hope that his home isn't en route, because I think I might have spent all of my Christian capital on that last persuasion.
Oh,
So
well,
Etienne actually lives in an apartment above the fish market.
all right. Well, I don't know that I bought that he's really, like, personally, I don't think that I bought that he's really headed back to his place. So I'm going to say Private Arnold. uh, you know, as much as I'm flattered by your young virile attentions, I've got a boyfriend of my own, and if you don't mind, I'd like to drop off a bit of this hot dish at his house as well. He works at the fish market downtown, so if we just turn left here, it's right down the hill.
He's like, right. I don't know what it is about you ladies, but I can't seem to say no. And he turns down the lane. He's like, not that any of it really matters. I mean, the world's ending and all.
We just have a few moments left to make good before perhaps the worst happens. We should just do our part for now.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. That's probably right. Mm. And he pulls up to the front of the fish market. It's eerily quiet. I mean, everything in town is right now, but the fish market is always really busy with people, right? Tourists especially. And he gets out. The front part of the fish market is just like an open space. Like you can just walk right in. The stalls are like locked down and stuff, but you can just go into the actual market itself. He says, your boyfriend lives here?
He runs the fish market. And I know what you're thinking, but enough lemon juice, you can get the smell of fish off anything.
Well, yeah, I was wondering. I mean, it seems like it might kind of kill the romantic mood to always be smelling, like the briny deep.
There are some days he shows up to pick me up and it just smells like haddock, and I send him on home.
Yeah. And he lights a cigarette. Well, be quick about it because you've got till he finishes his cigarette. So what do you do?
We grab a little foil wrapped tray and bustle up. You said it's an apartment above the fish market. Is the
It
entrance?
is. You could go towards the back, and there's like stairs that go up.
Okay.
Back area.
Sounds like they might be out of sight. Then good.
Yeah.
So B, let's bustle on back and bust in.
Paint the scene, everyone. How has the fish market been affected by the presence of the Eye of Charon?
Ben mentioned the fish coming back to life earlier. I want to add on to that there are liquid trails across the floor where it's clear that some animals have slithered down out of the ice packs and made their way elsewhere.
Any other thoughts?
I've got another one, maybe. Remember how he has stored bodies for the sheriff in the past?
Oh no.
Take that and run with it.
I've got an idea for that. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I can top that.
No, I'm struggling today.
You are in the fish market. you are wandering toward the back to get to the stairs. And you see at the top of the steps, pawing at the door of Etienne's apartment, is what appears to be Albert Kraus, the victim from Dad Overboard. One wonders if they ever did anything with the body, or maybe it's just wandered back over here. Who knows? But in any case, you see Albert Kraus. LMA, you looked at the body very closely. You know it's him. Even in the dim light in the back, you can see it's him. He's just... What do you do?
Oh,
I think B might crouch down next to baby and say, all right, why don't you go up, see if you can get in the window.
you're sending the cat inside.
It's part of my move. I can,
Okay.
this animal follows simple commands.
What do
And
you,
maybe
what do you want baby to do?
I think that once baby is eye level, to cause some sort of a distraction, and or the former Mr. Kraus might be distracted enough
No, to draw him away. Yeah,
Yes.
we'll come back to that. Let's go to the Deep Reaver. Miles says, as you're going down below deck, he's got a like a kind of little flashlight thing and takes you down there. He says, so what kind of stories have you heard about what's down here?
Well, I heard that the ambergris they got off of the whale was blood red, and anytime anyone touched it, they soon died. So it's locked away in the hold forever.
B, LMA, what stories have you heard?
I heard that the crew that came back with the Reaver wasn't the crew that went out with it. And the original crew is still in the hold to this day.
Dang, that was remarkably similar to what I had in mind. I heard that same thing, and that in their more than a century of isolation down there, that they've taken to a kind of cannibalism, and yet they regrow the parts, and so they've just been eating each other again and again and again for centuries.
Miles says, yeah, they have all kinds of weird stories. But one thing is a matter of historical record. One thing is definitely true.
And
Well, Hale Willoughby, the sailor who was thought dead during the hunt and then turned up later. Surely you know that Hale Willoughby, well, he murdered 13 people in town shortly thereafter, and no one ever found the bodies.
you don't suppose they're in there?
I don't know. I've heard different things. They say that Hale survived. They say that Hale survived because he made some sort of deal with the devil or with some unknowable god of the murky deep, that if he was allowed to come back, he would give back 13 times. He confessed to the killings, of course, and he hung, but he wouldn't say where the bodies were. And it gets a little fuzzy in the record after that, but some people think that this is where he stored them, and that the powers that be, whoever they are, doesn't want the bodies found.
Well, perhaps we'll be lucky and that's all that's in there.
Perhaps. Let's go back to baby. So you get to roll with advantage. Go ahead and roll with, I think it's probably presence to get baby to do what you want. And let me take a look at your conditions. No, I think you're good. Oh, well, dead will rise. You have that. Yeah, roll
I'm
disadvantage.
super icked out. Yeah. Can I flat roll?
By using baby, yeah, just do regular dice. Yeah.
5 + 1.
We never stated stakes. Like, what are you afraid is going to happen?
Oh, I'm afraid this is going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, what are you afraid is going to happen? Like, if
I am
fail?
very afraid that this undead thing will be drawn to me, much like my friend Tish, and that I will be once again confronted with another undead person I used to know.
Yeah, I think it's worse than that. There are lots of undead things, turns out, inside this particular space right now that you're both gonna have to contend with. What'd you roll?
A 5. +1
LMA.
is 6.
LMA, you notice it first. Footsteps, wet, sloppy sounding footsteps. A gurgling noise coming from a number of choking voices in the shadows. Large fish flopping about on the ground.
I say, B, this reminds me of that time when Amanda Delacour.
Listen, we're gonna cut there. We'll resolve it. I bet. Miles begins using the tactical shovel to try to pry away a board. When you start to hear movement coming from the hold, in particular, you hear something scratching on the underside of the wood.
Miles, I don't suppose the museum has a rifle or shotgun in any of its exhibits?
No, probably not the kind of thing that you would want to pull the trigger on after it has been sitting in a glass case for 150 years. Golly, what is that?
Well, my esteemed colleague, it's probably something dead.
And then you hear something whispering from the floorboards, Callie, from between the crack. Do you get closer to hear what it's trying to say?
Yes.
It says, "Willoughby, how could you?" And that will conclude our session for today. Let's do stars and wishes. Making good progress on the mystery. Should be able to wrap it up, no problem, next time. Whoever wants to go first, take it away. I don't have to do end of session. What doesn't, yeah, kind of doesn't really matter at this point, but we can do end of session too, I suppose. You have not solved a mystery, but B, did you behave like a woman half your age?
I don't think so.
Did you share a memory of a late family member?
No. I was about to with some crowns. I think we had to satisfy, but I didn't know if we were cutting.
You can do your crown before we go. Yeah, go for it.
I was to show a flashback to a time and show how I was an imperfect mother.
Okay.
B has never talked about this with anyone from book club. It is one of her most painful memories. But her youngest and only daughter was 6 years old, playing in the front of the house, and B had been in the kitchen doing something or answering a phone call, and Alice had wandered out into traffic. And so she never had any more children, does not dote upon them, and it is not something that she particularly enjoys. This memory keeps coming up as she is confronted with the dead coming back.
I love it. In that case, you can mark your experience there as well. Were there any other crowns that need to be done? Don't think so. Let's go over to Dr. Thibault. Did you show someone that you've still got it?
She committed a felony.
I'll take it. Did you, yeah, the whole scheme with the soldier was good. Did you share a memory of a late family member?
Not directly, but referenced in why she's always watching the water.
Oh, yeah, I'm into it. Yeah. LMA, did you dote on someone? Oh, a little bit on the soldier.
A little bit with the private, but
yeah,
if
I'll
was
take
enough.
it. Did you share a memory of a late family member?
Don't think so.
Okay, now with all that said, let's do stars and wishes. So whoever wants to go first, take it away.
Brian, I did not expect to be reminded of Annette Funicello today, so thank you for that. And also, the military likes to eat was a good line. I really enjoyed LMA's the attempted pivot from sneeze to yoo-hoo that seemed very LMA, and just her character shone through there. And B, getting the military to agree to this plan and your reference to your Christian capital was pretty, that was great. And I can just picture the actress you have there doing that and looking at that private. Jason, your void mystery went a lot harder out the gate than the one I did, and I was not prepared for ocean sky and giant red eyeball. It's great, and I really love the atmosphere you've got set up, and just the stakes being raised so high so quickly. Wishes, not a particular wish. I'm kind of okay if we never find out what happened to Callie's husband, but also that could be a neat little drop in the bucket too. So nothing in particular, really enjoying, looking forward to seeing how it goes. Oh, also April, May, and June Willoughby.
Yeah, that was good. I love the flies that don't die. That's just like a special kind of hell.
Jason set us up for it. It is a special kind of hell.
And what else? Oh, the Callie building a scrapbook that is full of images of the red eye. That's just great. I love that imagery that, like, no matter what happens, those scrapbooks are going to be left laying around. Jason, you've always got good sound effects, but for some reason the record player coming on and going ooh was a really, really great one. Wishes, in the sense that I'm assuming we're going to conclude the void mystery next go around. Even if Fraser's not able to join us, I hope that Violet's character somehow comes back.
Yeah, we'll find a way to work Violet in, I think. Yeah. Stars, I really enjoyed. I kind of just I loved just the basic, like, I like the mix and match tones that we were doing. I think that's really appropriate for Brindlewood Bay, because it's like this clearly like off the chain cosmic horror scenario and setup, but then like we're cooking meals and we're sneaking around and we're pretending to have heart attacks and like, like all that kind of like goofy stuff is happening as well. So I love that mix. I think it's really great. Loved the crown that you just did was really good, Sarah. I enjoyed that a lot. It kind of really enriches the character quite a bit, which is great. I enjoyed the little interaction between Etienne and Ella May, because that's a love story that never had a chance, right? And it still has no chance, but it's interesting to go back to. And I also like the idea of like, we haven't seen it too much really, but it's nice to see that like that Callie has like a professional network, you know, that you're kind of like can rely on, which I think is really great. It's kind of fun that we got to see it today. So that was really great. Wishes, yeah, I'm just excited to see what the final confrontation is going to be like, because it's really about that final confrontation. The mystery is just sort of get the mystery out of the way kind of thing, so that you can kind of get to the confronting the midwives, right? But nevertheless, I'm curious what you all come up with and kind of, you know, seeing all that. So yeah, it'll be fun.
A lot of my stars are covered. I too need to give a star to just how hard hit the other was at the beginning of this void mystery. The giant red eyeball definitely, I think.
That was all stuff that came up last session, right? Like, because
right.
Ella May like fell into the dark ocean and saw the eyeball, right? Like that was all a thing that was going to happen.
100%, but falling through into the reality a week later that we're all living with it and the military is here and the weather, like all of that is excellent setup. But I feel like it took me to like mid-session to get like in step with it, which I think is both appropriate because our characters are probably still dealing with a lot of that, but also really interesting to play through, because it definitely gave me fodder for that crown, because now I'm steeped in the undead icky, so to speak. Sound effects for sure, but the descriptions of what was coming back from the dead, I think for everybody really was on point throughout the whole mystery as well. Also liked the yoo-hoo. I felt very attacked because I actually sneeze chew, and when Brian sneezes, he just sneezes and then says chew at the end of it. So it was a personal star for me, love. Wishes, I think that, yeah, that final confrontation is going to be fun. I'm still going to enjoy the theorize. I always like a good mystery, but yeah, to see how this all shakes out, it's going to be really fun.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it. Any other stars or wishes before we go? Okay, we'll say thank you for watching the video if you're watching the video, and we'll go ahead and stop.